indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since we are without a president and a vice president, I'll start this meeting out, and I'm going to turn it over to Doug for the election of officers for 2020.
All right, we will open the floor to nominations for president of the Tippecanoe County Council.
I make a motion, Kevin Underwood for president.
We have a motion for Kevin Underwood. Anyone second that nomination?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilman Richard. All right, any other nominations?
I nominate Kathy Vernon as vice president.
All right, well, I think, yeah, we can do it as a slate. So we've got Kathy Vernon for vice president. Anyone second that nomination? Second by Barry. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, the floor is closed. All in favor of Kevin Underwood as president and Kathy Vernon as vice president signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I will turn over the floor.
Thank you, and Happy New Year 2022, first council meeting of the year. So let's start off with our auditor's financial report and encumbrance report.
Okay, your financial report should be in your packet. We began January 1st of 2022 with a general fund cash balance of $15,823,611, with the projected miscellaneous revenue and property tax, and I'm using 97% of the property tax, and deducting the circuit breakers, our total available was $68,866,000. $830. When you deduct the encumbrances, the 2022 budget, and assume that we only spend 98% of the budget, and also deduct our minimum balance, our beginning net balance is $4,162,048. And that is lower than what we had last year, but we did have the 6% raise. We knew we were going to be taking some money off the table, but that is historically a high number. We have general fund additional appropriation requests and for this meeting of $0, so we have that $4,162,048 as the year begins. Moving into the revenue report, I'll highlight a couple things here that have to do with pretty much with the property tax settlement that we've had since my last report. The first line is 0100 property taxes, and you see through 12/31 we received $27,655,000, which is just a little bit higher than what we had established when we did the budget, and you really can't receive more than what the certified levy is, but if you can see over there, the certified levy was $28,000,007. So some of the differences are the tax caps. So we did receive, the property tax that we expected to, and it was a good collection time that maybe Jennifer may go over that a little bit. We receive a couple things twice a year from the state, financial institutions tax and commercial vehicle excise tax, which is 0124 and 0131. And the financial institutions was a lot higher the second half of the year than it was the first half of the year. And that's not anything that we really know what's going to happen until we do receive those funds. Commercial vehicle excise was about what we anticipated. The license excise, we came in at $2.5 million. If you notice over here, my last column there, the $2,059,000, that is what the state gave us. That is not what we approved at budget time, but that is what the state put in the budget order as far as what we should expect in excise, and there's no concern that their money is less because we will receive what we receive. So we will probably be closer to the $2.5 million. So that is money that we really can still anticipate. But I just went down to the numbers that the state had given us. Moving down a little bit at the bottom of intergovernmental, the 0299, the examination of records, just a little explanation of what that is. When the State Board of Accounts does an audit for anybody in the county, we pay it out of county general, and then once we do property tax settlement, we deduct that from whoever the audit is done for, whether it's Lafayette School Corporation or City of Lafayette, whoever it might be. We deduct that from their settlement, and we put money back into county general. So with December settlement, we had paid $45,000 in the last 6 months, so we paid ourselves back for that. So that's not really a revenue of a gain, because we had paid it already and just reimbursing ourselves. The same, well, down here at 0442, the fairgrounds, just as a little note, you can see that we did receive 150% of what we had anticipated, which was, we were kind of doing that blindly in for the 21 number, but, you know, so that 77,000, that obviously came in the second half of 2021, so things are going well there. 0731, which is tax refunds and reimbursements, and this is kind of like the examination of records. When there's a property tax refund, we pay that out of county general, we pay the people back, and then we take that away from settlement at the end of the year. We only do that once a year, so there was close to $1 million that we had given in refunds, and so we took that away from the units. We took a look at the total general fund revenue. We were at 103% of what we had budgeted, but if I deduct the revenue from those audit fees and the tax refunds, we were 101% of what we had anticipated when we did the budget. So it was a good financial year for us. The next page, as we get into the fund balances, the general fund, fund number 1,000, we are at $15.8 million was the ending balance, which was a little bit higher, about $750,000 higher, I believe, than what we had at the end of 2020. 1135 is Cume Bridge, and again, these are just some of the funds that have property taxes, so we're at $4.4 million in Cume Bridge. Cume Cap, the next one, 1138. And we did gain some cash balance there, because that has been, you know, a concern fund, and so we have moved some appropriations around there, and so we do at least have more than $1 million balance when the year ended. 1171 is Major Bridge, and we didn't spend anything, I don't believe, all year in 21 for Major Bridge, and that obviously is a cumulative fund, so once we do have a major bridge project, the funds are available, so we do have $4 million sitting there. Reassessment, 1188, that is a property tax funded fund, and so we are at 152,000. We did move some positions from reassessment to the general fund for 22, because that balance is getting a little bit low, as to be a little bit concerned about, but I think we've addressed that. And 4710 is the self-insurance fund, and it did take another little hit in December, but we are still at $8.2 million, and in addition, we have the $2 million from the rainy day fund, so we are still very solid in that fund. The last one I wanted to mention was just fund number 6,000. That is the settlement fund, and if you just would see this report and you see a big number, there's $95 million going in and $95 million going out. That is where all of the property tax money is funneled through before we do the distributions, whether that's to ourselves or to the other units within the county. So it is kind of an in and out fund, and that I think is all I had with the funds. And then I did throw in, I don't think I put in the for my display, I do not have the encumbrance report, but that is in your packet there, and it makes it a little kind of hard to put on the screen. But these are, encumbrances are when someone has incurred a cost, a bill in 2021, and the payment cannot be made until 22. And so if you do have funds available in your budget to pay that bill, but there just wasn't the time to get it paid, you can encumber that over. So we'll move, if you have like say $500, we will move that $500 into the 22 budget, but you have to show us that you did incur the cost, and not just leftover funds. It has to be incurred the cost, and then we would move that over. So that, I think, is, we're just supposed to present that to you. We've gone through all of them to make sure it's all appropriate, having the right paperwork, and that they have the funds available. So that's what we have there, and I think I just want to turn that into you. The next thing I have that's in the packet, I believe, is this Uniform Conflict of Interest Disclosure Form. Not saying that anybody needs to file this, but if you have any financial conflict of interest with anything that we are doing here, you need to file this form. So I just wanted to present that to you in case anybody would feel like there is something that they need to disclose. So that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Any further questions for our auditor? Okay, next, Treasurer's Report. Jennifer, please.
Good morning. Should have your paper report in front of you. This is the December interest report and also the summary of closing out the year of 2021 for interest. So for December, we had interest of $56,303.97. I mentioned at the last meeting that we had moved money from Staley Credit Union. We had moved that into our First Merchants account. Staley Credit Union collects the property tax and was just holding until we did settlement. So we moved it over so that the money could be used towards settlement. Interest rates still not moving, so we're seeing the same very low rate, 0.34 average across all of our accounts. As far as the overall picture, the general fund came in at $492,716.91, or 51 cents, sorry, which was close to my revised estimate, hoping to reach about $500,000 for the year after we saw that interest rates were not going to be moving. So overall, $749,000 for the year. General fund usually earns around 50 to 55%, depending on the distribution and the fund balances. So for 2021, it was at 67% of the total, which is a little bit higher than usual. The county self-insurance fund, you had opted for that interest to go to the general fund, and for the year, that amounted to about $48,000. I believe that's all I had.
Any questions for Jennifer? Perfect, thank you. At this time is the time for public comment on any of the agenda items that we have listed. Seeing none, we will move on to Resolution 2022-04-CL, which is the application for American Fiber Tech Corporation for designation of an economic revitalization area.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-04-CL. Do these individually, Doug, or can do them collectively?
Well, even though it's listed, all you're doing today is the resolution. The statement of benefits are sort of incorporated into that. That's what they presented to you to get it moving. You don't need to take action on those. The clawback agreement really isn't going to come up until, just as a reminder, this is a two-step process. If you pass this today, it's what we call a declaratory resolution. That sets the stage for February, where you'd have a public hearing and consider a confirmatory resolution.
Second that motion.
So we have a motion on the table from Councilman Ben, and we have a second from Councilwoman Jody. And do we have anybody from Fiber Tech here that would like to speak to this resolution?
Morning, everybody. My name's Alex Miller. I'm with KSM Location Advisors. We're a site selection firm out of Indianapolis, assisting American Fiber Tech with their abatement. With me this morning are two company representatives, Jay Wiegand and Ben Miller. American Fiber Tech is a vertically integrated manufacturer of new and recycled pallets. It's been in operation since 1986. They have 3 facilities in Indiana, 1 in Pennsylvania. All of their facilities are interdependent with the other locations. And combining all these facilities together, the company is one of the largest pallet manufacturers in the country. The Clarks Hill facility houses new pallet and recycled pallet assembly. Company is considering an expansion of this facility, including investing in new robotic technology that will assist breaking down pallets and utilizing laser technology for exact measurements and cutting. This will not only increase output for the company, but it will increase safety as well for the employees. The company is in the stages of determining the final location to place this new equipment, with this project being competitive with the other facilities that the company has. So the company plans to invest about $2.5 million in expanding their existing facility and about $2.7 million in new machinery and equipment. And as a result of this, the company plans to add 25 new full-time positions, earning an average wage of a little over $21 an hour.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to our consent agenda. Historically, things in our consent agenda has been, our minutes, transfers, et cetera. There's a couple of new grants in this consent agenda, and I think the council probably needs to have a little bit of a discussion in regards to moving forward. New grants, should they be in the consent agenda, or are those things that we should pull out and have a discussion regarding new grants, since we need to know, okay, what is the grant for? How are we going to move forward operating under these procedures? So if we could have a little discussion about that in the sense of the council.
I definitely would like to pull those new grants out, just so I can have a better understanding of what they are and how they benefit the department, so I would be in full support of doing that.
I second that as well.
If I could, you're talking about for this meeting or like globally each month, if it's a new grant, to not have it in consent?
I would like to see it each month.
Okay, that's what I thought, just make sure.
Perfect. So we'll need a motion on the table to approve the consent agenda, pulling those 3 grants.
Motion to approve the consent agenda and pulling from that consent agenda the new grants from Community Corrections, Prosecutor's Office, and Sheriff's.
Yeah, I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda with pulling the new grants from Community Corrections, Prosecutor, and Sheriff from Councilwoman Hamilton, and a second from Councilman Richards. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So now we will move forward and take the new grants from Community Corrections and then Prosecutor and then Sheriff. So I'll need a motion to place Community Corrections on the table.
I'll make a motion to approve the community corrections grant, COSFP grant fund 8276, CF22, in the amount of $14,500.
Second.
Nope, Ben. If you're
So
doing
we
a COSAP grant, it's the 395.
It was the wrong one. Or optical. My motion amended to the
395301.
I think you did the transfer.
Second that amendment.
Okay, we have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray and a second from Councilwoman Hamilton for Community Corrections Grant Fund 8276 CF22.
Good morning, Happy New Year. This is in 2019, if you recall, we were fortunate to get a grant. It was called the Co-op grant at the time that now Judge Moore and I applied for and received. It was a 3-year grant. We were fortunate that grant has been changed to the COSAP grant, and this is basically a continuation or a new version of that grant. It's a 3-year grant that we received, totaling about $1.2 million. This is the first year allotment for appropriation for those for that grant. So it'll basically continue to fund our pretrial program that we have set up. And expand it, because we've gained about 3,500 in additional funds.
Thank you. Any questions? So we have a motion on the tables to approve Community Corrections Grant Fund 8276 CF22. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same side. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Next, Prosecutor.
Motion to hear the EAPIP Grant Fund 8252 SF22 grant in amount of $15,040.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilwoman Hamilton, a second from Councilman Richards to approve EAPIP Grant Fund 8252 SF22 for $15,040.
Good morning. This is the Elder Abuse Prevention Intervention Program grant. This one-time funding shall be made available to Adult Protective Service units for purposes consistent with the Elder Justice Act and the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriation Act of 2021, as passed by the Federal Congress. This funding is available through a grant from the Administration of Community Living of the Department of Health Services to the Division of Aging's FSSA at the state level. Funding is meant to be spent on Adult Protective Services employees for one-time reasonable bonuses, overtime, or hazard pay in amounts determined by the APS units. This federal grant money is meant to reflect appreciation for the work that APS units have done during the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's what this grant is about. This is a grant that was sought out by the state APS, Adult Protective Service, who supervises 17 of us, 17 prosecutors throughout the state. They applied for the grant through the FSSA, through the governor's office, as did many government agencies did. They then contacted us, local prosecutors. I'm one of 17 in the state that run a APS hub unit. We have 4.5 employees, 4 full-time, 1 half-time employee. And they obtained the grant. Once they obtained the grant, state level, they determine which and how much each of the 17 prosecutors' hubs we received. Tippecanoe County hub, which we're hub unit number 4 for the state, received the 15,000, whatever the odd amount is. And then prosecutors are notified by state APS director, you're receiving this grant money to pay bonuses and hazard. I will say at our local level, our hub unit 4, we saw almost, we went from an average of about 450, 500 cases during COVID to almost 850 cases. So they were working, as you can imagine, with elderly who were obviously the highest risk of infection of COVID. They had to go regardless of COVID. I believe all of my APS staff came down with COVID, even though they had masks and sometimes they wore suits. They just, they were dealing with that high-risk population. They did an enormous job doing it, and I understand everybody involved in this COVID crisis, everybody's staff, the sheriff's staff, health department, everybody's done and gone way above and beyond what we ever imagined, because we couldn't imagine what COVID was going to do to our staffs. But that's how the money came down to right where we're at now. Questions?
One thing that I just thought about as you're talking about this stuff, and maybe Shirley can help me out to make sure that it wouldn't apply here, but I think we should have some money for workers' comp, since this is going to be paid through payroll. And now, if council approves this, that can be done without coming back to council, because it would be within the same series, but they would need some workers' comp appropriation out of this total, right, Shirley?
I'm not sure that that would be necessary. I know that on some of the things that, on some of the long-term disability and things that are tied to the salary, they're tied to the state salary. So that would be something I would have to double check with situation on that.
But it is something we could do later on. It doesn't affect what the council would do today, but before we get the checks out. We need to check on that, and we do need to get a salary statement as well on these. But we kind of need to know that before we know the salary statement, how much salary is if we're going to have to pull some of this out for workers' comp. But we'll work with you on that.
We had issues with that inside with Kathy and I trying to figure out what do we give you, not knowing what we were going to do here today. Because once I would put a salary statement out, obviously staff would see that, and then if it deviated from that amount, I would have to explain that situation too. So one step at a time.
So again, just as a reinforcement, this is a grant that you didn't apply for. It's money that came to us because of our situation in 2020 and 2021, correct?
Correct. The
Okay.
state, we worked through the state APS. State APS, they applied for it through FSSA at the guidance of the state office, the governor. They work for the executive branch. So, and then once they got it, they just decided how it was going to be divided up. The pie was going to be divided up between the 17 hub prosecutors. None of us 17 hub prosecutors had any input on this grant. In fact, the reality is most of us surprised that we got the email saying, here it is.
Thank you for the clarification. Any further discussion or questions? We have a motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Sheriff, Walmart Foundation Grant Fund 9245.
Mine will be quick compared to that.
We need a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the Walmart Foundation Grant Fund 9245, FY '22.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor from Councilmember Murray and a second from Councilmember Richards to approve Walmart Fund Grant Fund 9245 FY '22 as presented.
Okay, what this is Walmart has a foundation grant. Law enforcement can go after it and use it for supplies, different things like that. What we've used this for is to start a new canine handler program that's currently, they started today, actually, working in our jail exclusively. So that's what we're going to use the funds for.
Any further questions? We have a motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to now the additional appropriation portion of our budget, or excuse me, of our agenda. And we have a prosecutor's office.
Motion for approval, Prosecutor Drug Enforcement Fund 2507, appropriation amount of $24,030.
Second.
Motion on the table from Councilwoman Hamilton and a second from Councilman Richards from the Prosecutor's Office, Drug Enforcement Fund 2507, in the amount presented. Thanks, Pat.
Good morning. This is the ongoing fund. This is fund that we get through from time to time. We win the civil forfeitures, the court orders, the disbursement of the money, and it's released, and then we have to appropriate it in.
Any questions, further discussion? Motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. IPAC-HTCU Grant Fund 9271, fiscal year 2022.
Motion for approval of the new grant, IPAC-HTCU, Grant Fund 9271, in the amount of $235,159.
Second.
Motion on the table from Councilwoman Hamilton, a second from Councilman Richards for the grant fund in the prosecutor's office as presented. Pat.
This is we spoke last fall. We were able to get the bill through in the Indiana House and Senate passed the high-tech crime unit digital labs, regional labs, Tippecanoe County and St. Joseph County, where we already have ours. So this is the money that comes through. It's approximately $300,000 yearly. It's funded through the state budget, so it's not unlike most grants. It's going to be there going forward. And the reason it wasn't full $300,000 is the difference between $300,000 and the amount we have is the state was able to get a discount on buying a software package because they bought 10 instead of just 1 or 2 at a time. So they just deducted that from all of us, all of the 10 regional hubs. amount. So we're very excited that we have this income stream guaranteed to help fund high-tech crime unit. We now will be providing that type of evidence and digital examinations for 13 other counties as our geographical area. It's a big lift now because now we're implementing it. We have to meet with 13 other prosecutors, all the different law enforcement agencies, the high-tech crime unit, Sean Lesney, the director, through IPAC. It's an amazing thing that's happening for our system of justice to find the evidence that not only leads us to those who are responsible, it also exonerates people because cell phones basically track you 24/7, and so do your little things on your, those are nice too now.
Any further discussion? We have a motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheriff's Department.
Make a motion, we approve the accident report fund 1101 in the amount of $44,528.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray and a second from Councilman Richard in regards to the Sheriff's Department Accident Report Fund 1101 as presented.
It's
Sheriff.
just carrying money over from last one year to the next.
Any further questions? Motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Firearms training.
Make a motion, we approve the appropriation for firearms training fund 1156 in the amount of $42,220.
Second.
We have a motion on the table for Councilman Murray and a second from Councilman Richard for Firearms Training Fund 1156 as presented. Discussion?
With this, though, just to put a bug in your ear, because the state changed how they do the permits and the fees, now that they're free, and they're still trying to figure out how they're going to get that money back to the counties. The last meeting I was in with the ISA, they're still trying to figure that out at the state level, how they're going to figure all that out. So that very well could dry up and be nothing at some point. We'll figure something out.
But we have that much cash right now,
Yeah.
so this part would be okay. It's just future
In the
years.
future, it could be
Yeah.
zero.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Animal Control Fund 2573.
Make a motion, we approve the appropriation from the Animal Control Fund 2573 in the amount of $44,439.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard on Animal Control Fund 2573 as presented. Sheriff?
Same thing, carry over from one year to the next.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. False Alarms Fund 2574.
Make a motion, we approve the appropriation from the False Alarms Fund 2574 in the amount of $24,933.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard for the False Alarm Fund 2574 as presented. Sheriff?
Again, this one keeps coming up, it seems, but we finally have something we can do with it. But it's, again, one year to the next.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Continuing Education Fund 2575.
Make a motion, we approve the appropriation for the Continuing Education Fund 2575 in the amount of $6,785.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard for Continuing Education Fund 2575 as presented. Sheriff?
Same thing, carrying over.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Canine Support Fund 4012.
I'll make a motion, we approve the appropriation from the Canine Support Fund 4012 in the amount of $2,598.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard for the Canine Support Fund 4012 as presented. Sheriff?
Carrying things over from one year to the next.
Discussion? Motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Donation Fund 4127.
Make a motion, we approve the appropriation from the Donation Fund 4127 in the amount of $8,919.
Second.
Motion on the table from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard for the Donation Fund 4127 is presented.
These are actually, we get several donations for our canine, our Explorers program. We recently received a donation that wanted to buy one of our canine, a vest, so that's what these funds are.
Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now we move on to community corrections.
I'll make a motion, we approve the grant appropriation from the Justice Partnership Grant Fund 8653 FF22 in the amount of $60,000.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard, for the Justice Partnership Grant Fund 8653 FF22 is presented. Thanks, Jason.
This is the, I believe, third year that we've received this grant through the Justice Partnership Grant. This supports our pretrial program that we just talked about before in that appropriation.
Any further discussion? We have a motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Community Corrections Salary Statement.
I'll make a motion, we approve the 2022 Community Corrections Salary Statement for part-time correction officer in the amount up to $15.45 an hour.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard, for the Community Corrections 2022 Salary Statement as presented. Jason.
Just a slight adjustment in our salary statement for our part-time corrections officers to try to make it a little more market competitive.
Any further discussion?
Out of curiosity, what is that now? Right.
I believe it's up to, and I apologize, I think $14.50, I think, something around those lines. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Almost $1 an hour more.
Yeah. Not nearly enough, but let's start.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. TEMA.
I'll make a motion, we approve the appropriation from the Hazmat Fund 2546 in the amount of $10,931.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard, for the Hazmat Fund 2546 as presented. Welcome, Smokey.
Morning. These are just funds when the hazmat team goes out, when they're able to bill, that goes to that fund. It's just rolled over year after year.
Further discussion? We have a motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Hazard Warning Fund 4940.
Make a motion, we approve the Hazard Warning Fund 4940 in the amount of $70,472.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard, for the Hazard Warning Fund 4940 as presented.
This is largely the outdoor warning sirens to purchase new ones, but more importantly, to maintain those 76 sirens that we have.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. D for emergency.
Make a motion, we approve the appropriation from the D4 Emergency Deploy Fund 8726 in the amount of $24,098.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard, for the D4 Emergency Deploy Fund 8726 is presented.
Again, same year after year, this is money that we receive when we use our equipment on different events and deployments. And it's a little misleading. It says District 4, and it kind of is, but it's Tippecanoe County's equipment.
Further discussion? We have a motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Health Department 2022 Salary Statement.
I'll make a motion, we approve the 2022 salary statement in the amount of $45,918.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard. Health Department 2022 Salary Statement as presented. And this is for the Disease Intervention Specialist.
Yeah, good morning. We have one full-time DIS intervention specialist, but due to our increase of cases, the state through the grant, has asked us to have another full-time because we cannot meet the community's needs. And so with our grant money we have received, we do have the money for another full-time. And that will maybe help us a little bit reach the need.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Then we have the part-time.
Jump ahead of myself, Alexander.
That's okay.
I'll make a motion from the Health Department for the 2022 salary statement, part-time position, up to $20 an hour.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard for the Health Department salary statement, part-time, up to 20.
So this is for various part-time positions that we have that we pay through different grant funds so that we can fill these positions. We've had trouble retaining staff due to low pay.
What's the current pay at? Rate up to, you know,
Is it 16? 16.
what's the, and pardon me for not knowing, but what is the kind of the market rate for a part-time position?
It depends on the position. Contact tracers are one that we have a hard time maintaining just because we're asking them to work weekends and nights to meet the need of the community. And the state pays way more than $20 an hour for contact tracing. So we've lost a lot of people to the State Department of Health once they get trained. So,
Do you feel that $20 an hour would help retain employees?
yes, I do think it'll help retain.
And attract additional employees?
I think if we try to market certain positions to students, and so if I was a student, $20 an hour would, you know, it's a good pay for.
When you say way more, what's that range?
Huh?
When you say way more, that they pay way more than the state, or the state does, than we would, what, give me an idea of what that range is.
Like 30.
Okay.
Work from home option, which we don't let them work from home. Because they also run our call center, and so they need to be present to answer those incoming calls. And so it is a little bit different, but usually it's a good experience for a student, and it looks good on a resume when they're in school for public health. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Perfect. Thank you. We have a motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Surveyor. Just as he walks in. Perfect timing, perfect timing.
I make a motion to approve the EDIP Fund 1112 in the amount of $1,827,896.
Second?
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Richard, a second from Councilwoman Hamilton for the EDIT Fund 1112 appropriation as presented.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Zach Beasley, County Surveyor. Good to be here. So these funds are from the EDIT Drainage and Culverts Fund. These were existing monies that were there in 2021. I'm asking to roll them over to 2022 to continue to do major infrastructure projects and drainage related. So one, if you've driven down Interstate 65 lately, you'll see one of the projects we did here recently. There's a huge pond just on the west side of the interstate. So that's part of, these funds go to projects like that. So happy to answer any questions, but that's what they're for. So.
So this is an appropriation that council had given in prior years, and we had been able to encumber this over. Board of Accounts has told us you should not encumber it unless, it actually incurred the cost. So basically, the appropriation died off, so this is just reinstating what died on December 31st.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We have a motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Commissioners.
Make a motion, we approve the construction fairgrounds fund 4818 appropriation amount of $532,440.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray, a second from Councilman Richard for the Construction Fairgrounds Fund 4818 as presented. Welcome, David.
This takes us on the home stretch. This is the final amount, what's left over of the bond. This way we can finish up all the other little projects out there. I mean, you've seen some trees come in. We have a whole bunch more trees that are going to eventually be coming in, getting flagpoles put into place, equipment, whatever we need to basically work the thing. Andy's getting it figured out. We may need another Zamboni or a bigger one or things like that because we do have a lot of floor space we got to cover and things. But, yeah, this takes us on the home stretch is what it boils down to.
Any further discussion?
Is this part of the fence project too, or is that different?
Part of which one?
The fence?
No, that's out of Eat It, so that's a different line, and, yeah. Yep.
Any other discussion? We have a motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Do you have any committee reports to be brought before the council this morning? Hearing none, we will move to new business, which is the 2022 compensation agreement in lieu of statutory fees between Robert Goldsmith and the County of Tippecanoe, State of Indiana.
Make a motion, we approve the 2022 compensation agreement in lieu of statutory fees between Robert Goldsmith and the County of Tippecanoe, State of Indiana.
Second.
We have a motion on the table from Councilman Murray and a second from Councilwoman Hamilton for the 2022 compensation agreement with our sheriff. Any discussion?
And now this is just a contract that matches the appropriation that we have for 2022, and as you can see, I believe we include that in there. The commissioners have approved this as well.
Any further discussion, questions from the council? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Unfinished business. We did have the 2022 council appointments. We do have two appointments. I know that Kevin is still waiting to hear from one, so we will put that on our next agenda for our February meeting. Commissioners, FYI, welcome to the new President of the Commissioners for 2022, Commissioner David Byers. You have the stage.
Really, I thought it was interesting under the crash report for the sheriff, it should be increasing in funds with as many accidents as our deputies seem to keep having, so and community corrections and accidents, so.
That doesn't stop, does it?
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
No.
That's what I was going to say.
Basically, really not too much other than it is legislative time, and if you have any legislative issues, please get a hold of Tom. They are looking at eliminating personal property, so that is something that could affect us big time, or how it could potentially replace her. So if you have anything legislative, and that's also for everybody out here, if you got something, Tom's the one that really loves that stuff. So, welcome all of you.
Thank you. At this point of our agenda, are there any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, our next meeting will be Tuesday, February 8th, 8:30 a.m. Motion to dismiss.
Motion to dismiss.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. See you next month.
I'm over there, I get these shirts. Hey, Bob, have you over there next time?
You might be.
You never know where you will be.
Kathy and I may be back at the kids' table.
Yeah, it is nice. You know what, yeah.
We're going to have the council working shifts.